this wonderful week. It is so beautiful outside. I just came inside and it's so nice out there. It's a little bit hot today, but it is just beautiful, and I'm sure you're all enjoying the outdoors and riding your bicycles and climbing trees and doing all those wonderful things that you can do outside when it's summer, which it's just spring, but it's getting that way. I have some great news. We've got people that have won gifts that I have delivered and mailed, and man, everybody is doing so good on answering their questions. I appreciate y'all answering the questions. We always have 4 questions at the end of each video, so don't forget to have your moms either text me or you can call me, or any way you can get me those answers. That adds up your points. And I got some new prizes in this week. You're going to be excited about those. I got another Barbie doll, and I got a hair extension. I'm telling you, somebody requested that. Some more fairy lights, and some more balls and squishies. Oh my goodness, I just got all kinds of prizes. So let me know what you're interested in, what kind of prizes you really like. And that way, when you get your points and you're able to answer your questions, then you get a prize. So let's get started tonight. I'm sorry I don't have an experiment for you tonight. I have got some more fast facts for you. I have been working on our Facebook website page. Not Facebook, but our website page. And Iris is Emmanuel and Eileen and Kate's mom. She did a beautiful job of getting that set up. So I'll get that information out to your moms and dads so they can take a look at it. All of our videos that I've done so far are actually on there. So if you've missed any of them, you can go back and check it out. So tonight, our fast facts for tonight. Did you know, I did not know this, did you know that your fingernails, my fingernails look pretty good, that your fingernails grow faster when it's cold? Like if it's cold in your house and the weather's cold outside, your fingernails grow faster. Have you ever noticed that in the wintertime, your fingernails look really nice and pretty and long? Well, that's why, because they grow faster in the winter. Now we all know. Your feet, this one's kind of disgusting, but I know that there's a lot of people out there that have sweaty feet, right? Right. I know a few people just sitting here, I can think of a couple of names for sure that have sweaty feet. Well, that's a lot of people out there that probably have sweaty feet. I don't. My feet stay cold all the time. But this is a fact. For you sweaty feet people out there, your feet sweat 1 pint. 1 pint of sweat a day. 1 pint. That's a lot. That's about, you know, one of those milk cartons that are about like that. The cream is what I use. That's a pint. Can you imagine? That's a lot of sweaty feet. Goodness. Okay, sorry, I hope that didn't disgust anybody. On the planet Venus, have you ever looked up in the stars and looked for the different planets? Well, Venus is very unique. Venus rains, when it rains in Venus, it rains metal pieces. It's not water, it's metal pieces. Now, I didn't go and look, I didn't go to Google and Google to see why it's metal, but I don't have any clue. Maybe that's something that you could do for a science project. Maybe you could find out why it rains metal on the planet Venus. Let me know if you figure that one out. And this one's really cute. I really would like to see this one. If a donkey and a zebra have a baby, you'll never guess what that precious little baby is going to be called. It's going to be called a zonkey. A baby zebra and a donkey is a zonkey. Isn't that cute? Can't you see that little striped zonkey running around and making those neigh noises like the donkeys do. That's gotta be a cute sight. Okay, this one I have experience with. I have experience with this one from my son. If you eat too many carrots, which I don't like carrots, so this would never bother me, but if you eat too many carrots, your skin turns orange, gets an orange tint to it. And the reason I know that for a fact is because my son, when he was a baby, he was my first child, and so I wanted to do everything right, and I wanted to make fresh baby food for him. So, okay, I put my fresh carrots, I didn't cook them, I just crammed them in the blender, and I blended them up for him, added a little water, and made them kind of runny so he could eat them. And I fed that baby carrots for several days. And the first day, oh my goodness, this is another disgusting thing. The first day, he had a poopy diaper that was completely orange. I'm serious, completely orange. And then I noticed that his eyes looked a little bit weird, and so I took him to the doctor. I worked for the pediatrician. I worked for the baby doctor back then. And so I took him to the doctor, and I said, "Hey, doc, what's going on with my son? He's got orange poopy diapers, and it looks like his eyes are kind of turning orange." He said, "Well, what have you been feeding him?" And I said, "Well, I guess this week I have fed him my homemade carrots." And he said, "That's it. If you feed people, not just babies, but if you eat too many carrots, your skin can turn orange." It's a true fact. I can guarantee that one is true. Okay, one more thing, and then we'll get to our story tonight. Well, this one's kind of, I can kind of understand this one. Cows can walk upstairs, but they cannot come downstairs. They can walk up, but they cannot come down. I guess they're kind of top heavy, you think? Maybe that's why they can go up the stairs, but if they started to come down, they'd probably just fall on their face. So I guess that makes a little sense. Okay, there's my fast facts for tonight. I hope you liked those fast facts. So last week, remember what we talked about last week? How all of those different terrible, terrible things ended up happening to King Pharaoh. You know, King Pharaoh was the bad guy. He was the bad king. And he had all of those people captured as slaves. And God was determined that he was going to get his people out, and they were not going to be slaves for King Pharaoh anymore. Well, tonight we talk about their adventure, because they went into the wilderness, and they were, of course, they were away from Pharaoh, and they were headed to God's promised country. God had promised them a beautiful land, and he said, with milk and honey. So that just kind of gives you a picture of some kind of beautiful grassland where there's wonderful trees and brooks and streams. That's what God had promised these people. But in the meantime, they had to get there. I mean, it wasn't like they could get in an airplane and fly. They had to get there. So God helped them. He was willing to help them any way he could. So at nighttime, God was so good to them that when they were walking at night, he put what was called a pillar of fire in front of them. That way they could see their way. You know, when you're walking on the campgrounds, if you've ever gone camping, you know, you have to be careful on those trails, because sometimes those trails end up in a hole, or they end up going the wrong way, or, you know, they might even have bushes in front of them. So you have to kind of see where you're going. You usually use a flashlight when you're camping. Well, God knew that they didn't have flashlights, So he made a pillar of fire in front of them. And if you have a children's Bible, you can probably go and look in the children's Bible and see that picture. Mine doesn't have one. This is not an actual Bible. This is a storybook, but it doesn't show a picture of the pillar of fire. But as they were walking down the road, he put fire in front of them. It didn't hurt them. It wasn't hot, but it was in front of them. He did that at night when they were walking at night so they could see. Then in the daytime, when it was hot, he put a cloud over them to protect them from the sun. Wasn't that nice? How thoughtful he was of his people. He wanted to make sure that they didn't get too hot. So he made sure that during the daytime there was a cloud over them, and at night there was fire in front of them so that they could see their way. They camped every night, of course, and there was plenty of water and beautiful palm trees. Then when they set out to the wilderness again, of course they had to walk a little, well, probably a long ways every day. And you know what? They got kind of grumpy. Do you ever get grumpy when you're hungry? Oh yes, I know several people that get grumpy when they're hungry, including me. Yes, I get hangry. That's what they call it now. But they were hungry. And God provided them, with food. It's not that they were totally starving, but he was hungry. They were hungry, and they were grumbling and groaning, and they went to Moses and they griped and said, "We're hungry. Why didn't we just stay there and be slaves? We always had good food." And Moses said, "Yeah, I'm hungry too. That's for sure." And so you know what? Moses went to God and he said, "The people are griping. They're fussing because they're hungry. What can we do about that, God? What do you think you can do about it?" So he said, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. In the morning, they're going to get up and they're going to have something to eat. And it's going to be good. So just go to bed tonight. Know and trust me that I'm going to take care of everybody." And these people, were grumpy anyway, and so they decided, okay, well, we'll go to bed with hungry tummies tonight. And he just heard them complaining all night long. And then God spoke to Moses again, because he felt sorry for Moses. He knew these people were so gripey and so fussy. And he said, "Okay, you can tell them what I'm going to send them. I am going to send quail for them to eat." Have you ever eaten a quail? A quail is a bird. And it's good. I don't eat it very often, but I'm a picky eater. But quail, they were very, very excited. And so they went to bed all excited thinking, yay, tomorrow we're going to be able to cook some quail. They were super excited. And so Moses and Aaron went to bed also, and they were excited to get up the next day and just see how all this was going to happen. Well, that night, God did send the quail their way. The next morning, they all got up and they looked outside of their tents, and guess what? Not only had they gotten quail, but there were these little white things all over the ground. They weren't small either. I mean, I said like that, but they were good size. And they wondered, what in the world is this? Well, he promised us food, but not sure what this white stuff is all over the ground. So you know what? They went and they gathered some of it up. They had their quail, and they started gathering up this white stuff. And God told Moses, he said, okay, let me tell you what happens with this white stuff. I want your people, my people, to go out there, and I want them to gather up enough food just for their family to eat tonight. Don't gather enough enough for tomorrow night. Don't gather enough for a week. Only gather enough that you think your family will eat tonight. So don't be a hoarder like some people have been, going to the grocery stores because they think of this pandemic that we're in. They have to have all of this food and all of the toilet paper and all that stuff. You've been hearing about it, I'm sure. Well, God told these people not to do that. Don't do that. You will be surprised what happens if you do that. So, of course, there were some people that did not obey, as there always is, and they gathered a bunch. I mean, a whole bunch more than what their family could eat that night. Okay, he had already told them not to do that, but they did it anyway. So they gathered up more than they could eat. And they thought, okay, well, the next morning I'll have some. I might even get up in the morning and make some hot cereal with it, or I might make some nice bread with it, or maybe even a cake with it. They were thinking, because they knew they could use this stuff. It was kind of sweet. It was flat, and it was kind of sweet. And the name of this was manna. That's what the people named it. M-A-N-N-A, manna. And so these people, they decided, the ones that got too much, so that night, they put it at their bedside, thinking the next morning they'd get up. Well, guess what? It was gross. It stunk. It had worms all over it. And they looked at it and they thought, well, how come that happened? We just ate this stuff and it was wonderful. But because they had disobeyed what God told them, it turned to yucky, nasty stuff. They couldn't eat it. There's no way they could eat it. So God told them, he said, don't get more than what your family can eat for today. Okay, that day they got a little smarter. They were thinking, okay, I understand what he's talking about now. He's saying, don't get more because it turns into nasty worms if you do, and then you can't eat it, and it's a waste. It's a waste. Okay, so that night, they only got what their family could eat. They knew that's what it was supposed to do. Well, then something special happened on day number 6. We've got the days of the week, and on the 6th day, you remember at the very beginning of the book when we talked about how God made everything? He made the sun and the moon and the stars and the water and the animals and Adam and Eve. And on the 7th day, he rested. Remember that? I bet you do. So that's what he's telling his people. On the 6th day, you can gather enough for the 6th day and the 7th day. Because on the 7th day, when you get up and you go outside that morning, you're not going to have any manna on the ground. Because we rest on the 7th day. So God made it very clear to these people, gather enough on the 6th day so that you can have enough to eat for the 7th day. And I am just betting that probably some of those people didn't gather enough and they might have been hungry on that 7th day. But God makes things very clear to us. He always tells us very specifically what to do. And if you don't obey and listen, it's just like when your parents tell you something specific to do. If your parents say, now I want you to get in there and I want you to clean your room. And I'm going to come look at it and make sure it's all clean before you get to go outside and play or go swimming or whatever it is that you want to do. And then mom and dad come in there and they look at your room and it looks pretty good. And guess what? They look under the bed and all of your toys and junk is under the bed. Do you think that would go over very big? No, I don't think so. I've been a mama long enough to know that you don't just stuff your clothes and your toys under your bed. When mom and dad say pick up your room, clean up your room, that's what they mean. Clean up your room. Don't just stuff it under your bed. That's not good. So, these people on the seventh day, they get up and there's no manna. So, I'm just hoping that most of them all were able to get enough on the sixth day so that they weren't hungry. But you know what? That's another one of the things that we just have to, sometimes we have to endure the things that we have caused. So when we disobey and we do things that are not right, we have to suffer consequences, as we've talked about almost every week. There's consequences every week on things that you do wrong or you don't do. Probably more what you don't do, that you have to pay the price, so to speak. So, you know, these people, they were told about collecting too much of that manna, and they couldn't save it for the next day, could they? They could not save the manna because it was not good the next day. And so, you know, at the end of the summer, we're going to talk about something a little different. When summer ends and school begins, you get school supplies, right? Aren't you excited about that when you get new school supplies? I always am. Things like crayons and markers and papers and glue, and usually we get new clothes and stuff like that. The grown-ups buy them, and sometimes your grandparents buy them for you because they love you and they want to provide for your needs. They want everything to be just perfect for you. As perfect as they can make it, because none of our parents are perfect. I'm certainly not perfect. And God is perfect. You know that? God is perfect. So when God said He's going to do something for us, just like He said for His people, He meant it. He provided for them all the way through, all the way to the promised land. And there was a promised land. They took a long, long time finding the promised land because He was teaching them all the way to the promised land. He was teaching them how to take care of things and how to obey Him. And He was teaching them how much He loved them because He provided for every need that they had. As we read tonight, He provided the cloud and the fire. He provided the quail and the manna. He provided everything that they needed on their way. And He never, ever, ever wanted anything bad to happen to them. But sometimes the consequences get in the way, like the worms in the food. That was their fault. That wasn't God's fault. So, you know, sometimes we want to blame God when bad things happened. But it's not God. God allows things to happen when there's some kind of tragedy that happens, like this virus that's going around. God didn't create that virus, but it's happening, and God's protecting His people. He's taking care of His people. So just know that God loves you so very much, and He is there to take care of you. You just have to listen, and you have to obey. That's what we have to do. And you know, we talk about going to heaven and how wonderful that's going to be someday. And that's what it's all about. That's what loving Jesus is all about. Is someday we will get to heaven and be able to meet Jesus. So won't that be a beautiful day? Won't it be wonderful? Okay, well that is all I have tonight. Next week we're going to talk a little bit more about the promised land. And you know, God promises these people that it's going to be wonderful, and I bet it is going to be wonderful. So don't forget to answer your questions, and let me give you the questions right quick so that you can answer them for me. The first question that we have is, God led His people through the wilderness. part of the story. How does he protect his people in the daytime and at night? They all had plenty of water, and the people were grumbling because they wanted what? What were his people grumbling about? What did they want? And God decided that he would send them 2 different things because of their grumbling. What 2 things did God send his people? And one last question. I think I had 5 tonight. One last question. The food that he sent them, could they save it for the next day, any day of the week, or not? You think about that. You tell me about the food that God sent them during the week, and you tell me if they could save it each day for the next day. Okay? Have a great week, and I will get in touch with your parents, and I will let them know about answering the questions and how they can actually link up to our website now. So I love you all, and I can't wait to see you. I can't wait for us to have our services back in church. It won't be too long now, I can promise you that. So y'all take care, and I'll see you very soon. Love you.